Hello everybody. I just wanted to share a response to a Freedom of Information request that I made fairly recently. The request I made was asking for the number of medical negligence cases brought against the Countess of Chester Hospital in respect of the neonatal service, Pediatrics and Obstetrics across the period 1994 to 2024, split up into those three disciplines or departments, i.e. year-by-year figures for each of those departments, please. And they came back to me fairly recently. Before getting to the tables of data, I'll read some of the important notes and caveats that they give in their response. The first one being that claims notified or received in any given year will often relate to incidents that have occurred many years prior. Due to the nature of clinical negligence claims and the level of investigation needed to bring them to a resolution, claims received and notified in a specific year may take years to settle and close. So some of the settlements we see later on, we don't know exactly what year they were originally brought. They are not guaranteed to be settled and closed in the same year, it goes on to say. As such, there will be a time gap between incident and claim closure. That makes perfect sense. This is a really important point coming up now. Please note, it says, the Neonatology Speciality Code was introduced in the 2020 to 2021 financial year. The implication of that, or the meaning of that, is in the tables that we'll look at below, neonatology claims, or claims based on events happening and incidents happening in the neonatology unit, will have been subsumed in one of the other departments. Now, it doesn't make it explicit in their response, but I'm assuming they've been subsumed into obstetrics rather than pediatrics. And I wonder what everybody might think about that when we come to the figures and the number of claims set out in the tables below, which I'll put up on the screen as I go along. So another point there is that the number of claims related to neonatology as a speciality code will be misleading, because in previous years they were subsumed into a different code and didn't have their own code, and I believe that they were allied or incorporated into the claims made with regard to obstetrics rather than pediatrics, and I think that is the case, but I'll be interested to hear what you think in the comments about that, please. Another point they make is, due to the way in which data is extracted, it is also possible that the same claim may appear more than once in a data set across different year groups. For example, where the case has been closed as nil damages payment, challenged and then reopened and closed again at conclusion. As I said at the beginning, that my request was between the dates 1994 and 2024. Their response states that they're only able to give me details on medical negligence claims, or clinical claims as they call them, from 2006, from the year 2006/2007 onwards. So it's less than the data that I actually asked for. The response then shows a list of the different tables from 1 to 6, and then we'll go through the tables one by one and see what they say. There's a few more notes to take care of here. The first one is with regard to PPOs, periodic payment orders. It says the information disclosed includes damages and costs paid up to the end of the settlement year in periodic payment order and up to the end of the closure year in non-PPO cases. So there are obviously different types of settlements made. Some are periodic payment orders and some are not. And then there is the matter of low numbers, and this also came up when I did an inquiry with regard to the embrace figures, in terms of deaths across a certain area, in which the birthplace is noted, but not the place of death specifically. But what came up there is that if there is any very low numbers for a period, they don't actually report it, or they don't make it specific. And the reasoning is that they claim anyway it would be more likely to identify individuals. It says here, in some instances, the low numbers of claims, if it's less, in this case, in this FOI I've just made, if it's fewer than 5 in a particular year, they're going to put an asterisk. I think that's what you call it, an asterisk, or it's kind of that bar gate. Maybe it's a hash sign. You'll see it as we come to the tables. I think it's called a hash sign. So they don't actually give the numbers of claims, but if they've got a hash sign there, you know it's fewer than 5. And the reasoning is that it says the likelihood exists that individuals who are subject of this information may be identified either from this information alone or in combination with other available information. So they only show a figure. They show the grand total, which includes all those fewer than 5 figures. So every time we see a hash sign in the tables below, it will mean that it's fewer than 5. It could be 4, it could be 1, but it obviously has to be a figure, and it's to do with this reasoning about potential identification of patients. So we come now to table 1, and this is the number of clinical claims and incidents received between financial years 2006/7, 2006-2007, up to 2023-24 for the Countess of Chester Hospital, where the speciality is neonatology. And as you see from the picture on the screen now, it's only got a figure for 2023/2024. Now, we were told earlier in the response that the specific coding for neonatology only started in 2020/2021, in that financial year. According to this table, it would seem that there have been, since that period of a specific coding, 18 claims. So there are 18 claims, live claims, put in at that time in the year 2023-2024. And I don't know exactly whether that means live claims from before that are still unresolved, but I'm assuming it means 18 claims within that year. They don't mention 2020, 2021, 2022. It would seem from this, I'd be interested to see what commenters think, what people who watch this video think. Does that 18 number of claims mean that in the financial year 2023-2024 there have been 18 claims with regard to neonatology? If so, that's a big deal, isn't it, in that 1 year? So that is that particular table, and I'm not exactly sure what that means. When we come to the amounts of money paid out, we can acknowledge what they've said before, that they can be with regard to claims made a number of years before, and it's not specific. But the idea of number of claims per year, and it says 18 here, 2023, 2024, is very significant, I think. Extraordinarily significant, considering they are reduced down to a level 1 unit back in 2016. Is that 18 figure a cumulative amount that has been imported into there as ongoing claims, or are they fresh claims? This is the lack of clarity in this response. Are they fresh claims made specifically in that year? If it's the second, then that is very alarming, I would say. And we've got to remember that, do we then assume that when the neonatology had its own code from 2020 onwards, that there were no claims in 2020, 2021, 2022, and suddenly in 2023, 2024, coinciding with a trial, there suddenly are now 18 claims. So there's a lack of clarity there as to whether these are a cumulative amount of claims from before or specific to that year. Be very interested to hear what you may think about that. There's a bit more information here with regard to the paediatric table. So this is the number of clinical claims and incidents. So they're splitting it up between claims and incidents received. What's the difference between an incident received and a claim received? Can you receive an incident? So it's a little bit vague, isn't it? Between the financial years 2006 up to 2024, end of financial year 2024 for COCH, with regard to the speciality of paediatrics. You'll see that now on the screen, and you'll see those hashes going down, all the way down, which tells us that there are fewer than 5 for every year. They've only gone up to 2022 here, they haven't taken it up to 2024, but between 2006 and 2022 we have a total of 14, and that's split up in obviously low figures across all those years going back to 2006. When you see following tables, and there'll be a much larger number in the grand total table, I think you'll understand why I am inferring and supposing, it is a supposition, that prior to 2020, when neonatology gained its own specific code for recording claims specific to it, prior to that, neonatology-based claims and incidents, clinical claims, were subsumed into the department of, or the speciality rather, of obstetrics rather than paediatrics. So we'll leave that table there, that's the paediatrics one. We'll move down to the next one, which is here. Table 3, number of clinical claims and incidents received between financial years 2006 to 2024, for COCH, where the speciality is obstetrics. Now we have some identifiable figures going back to 2006 here, because there are over 5 claims, and again, as every time you see a hash there, that means there are less than 5, so it could be 4 down to 1, of course. But we have some years in which there are a higher number of claims. Now, I'm going to assume that these are claims made, well, I'm not sure how absolutely secure I can be based on the notes they gave, whether the claims being shown here are made in the year. I would assume they are in the year itself because of an event or an incident in the year itself. Possibly there is some overlap, that something happens, for example, in 2014 and the claim is received in 2015, but it's about an incident in 2014. So there's a lack of absolute clarity here as to when the claim received refers to what incident it refers to, what year it refers to. But I'm assuming it's fairly close. What I do notice, and I think you may also notice from this, if we look at the 2 most salient years with regard to what ends up as the indictment period, 2015 to 2016, we have 2 figures there that are showing, so they're more than 5. We've got 7 and 8. And what we're seeing there then, and what we can conclude from that, in obstetrics that is, and I believe, for the reasons I've already given, that obstetrics incorporates, up to 2020 now, when neonatology was given its own code, obstetrics incorporates neonatology claims, and it doesn't split them apart. So claims with regard to neonatology discipline, speciality, I keep saying discipline, speciality, are subsumed within this figure here. We've got a grand total of 82. You can see how much more it is than paediatrics, isn't it? It's a pretty large number. But we've got these figures 7 and 8 in the years 2014 to 2015, 2015 to 2016. It's the only 2 years in that total where we've got figures higher than 5. It's the highest. Those 2 years which cover the indictment period have the most number of claims in obstetrics, which I believe, for the reasons given, neonatology is part of the obstetrics here with regard to claims. And that indictment period has the greatest number of claims in two subsequent years, 1 year after another, 7 and 8, total of 15. In fact, there are no other years in that whole period between 2006 and 2024 where there are 2 consecutive years. There are no other periods where there are 2 consecutive years where there's a figure, i.e. a number of claims of 5 or over. So taken as a 2-year period, it's the most intense. It's the highest number of claims in any 2-year period across that almost 20-year period. And that's the indictment period I'm talking about, 2014/15, because it goes into 15, 2015-16. So I think that is very noticeable, and I'd be very interested to hear what people's inferences that can be drawn from that. I don't know how any of this information may help Lucy Letby in what's currently going on with regard to her defence. I think it's background and context, albeit there are some issues around clarity for the reasons given in terms of payouts, but may be related to claims made years before. But we can see here that claims are being made at a higher level during this indictment period of 2015-2016 than in any other 2-year period across this period of time, 2006 to 2024, with a total of 82 claims. We're going to move down to table 4 now, and we're looking at the cost of clinical claims closed. So this is the amount of money they've had to pay out, and it's going to be split into the 3 disciplines again, or the 3 specialities. And again, they're going back to 2006 and going up to 2024. So these are the damages that are paid. The first one is with regard to neonatology. Now, they've got zeros there, but we have to, damages paid, zeros. And we've already been told that it can take a long time between a claim being made and the damages being settled. It can take years, and does take years. And we also have to remember, as importantly, if not more, is that they didn't have a specific code for neonatology until 2020-2021 financial year. So that would explain the fact that there's zeros here. It doesn't mean there are no claims for neonatology, quite the reverse, I think, because they're subsumed into obstetrics. And it certainly doesn't mean that there have not been and will not be damages paid with regard to incidents and clinical negligence cases in neonatology, even though it says noughts here. Just to say again, they didn't have a separate code until 2020, 2021, and I think that's explained these 0 figures here with the speciality of neonatology. So we move down now to table 5. Table 5 is the number and cost of clinical claims closed or settled with a periodic payment order between 2006 and 2024, and this is with regard to the speciality of Pediatrics. So for some reason they only go back to 2010 here as a year of closure, and they only go up to 2020. I'm not sure why that is. All the figures So what they've done here, because the number of claims are less than 5, and there's this concept of patients being potentially identifiable, so they say if there are less than 5 showing, there's a grand total of 6, but they won't tell you how many claims each individual year. They won't tell you the individual damages, but they do give the grand total. And the grand total, as you see there, is 8,800,000 in damages. And there's some extra, the legal costs and the claimant legal costs, so a total of 9,800,000 odd there. And that's for paediatrics. Now I'll move down now to the final table, and there's a lot more in here, and this is with regard to obstetrics. And just to say again, I believe that prior to 2020, when it gained its own speciality code, neonatology claims being settled and claims being made were incorporated into obstetrics. If you remember the table way back there were 82 claims across the period that they've given information about. That's a huge number, whereas with paediatrics it's relatively a smaller number of 14. Sorry, not 14, let me check back there. Yes, 14, I was right about that, 14. But then we do have, in 2023, we have the number of claims for neonatology just for this 1 year as being 18. Now specifically what that 18 figure refers to is a bit difficult to pin down, whether it's a cumulative or imported figure with regard to claims from other years. I'm not sure. I'm taking it at face value, which is probably a mistake when you're getting information from the NHS, but it seems to say that there are 18 claims have been made in this 2023-2024 period. So going back to the final table, and this is to do with obstetrics, and these are the cost of clinical claims closed. This is interesting. I'm trying to figure this out now on the hoof because I'm just spotting something else. Anyway, I'll just go through the details of this. So it's obstetrics, I believe. This says here there are a total of 52 claims from obstetrics. 52 claims. Oh, I see. That's 52 that have been closed. So 52 have been closed. And some of them may be related to a period before 2006. And obviously there are a lot of claims that are still open, because for obstetrics, in the number of claims over the period, they said there were 82. So that means there must still be 30 claims not yet settled with regard to obstetrics stroke neonatology. There must be 30 outstanding, because there were 82 given in the table with regard to number of claims, but we only have 52 settled. Some of those settled claims may have come from before 2006, and so it might even be that there are more than 30 unsettled from all the claims made between 2006 and 2024. I hope that makes sense. There's a lot outstanding. To sum it up, there's a hell of a lot outstanding. Be that as it may, that there are a lot outstanding, we can see here that the damages paid in relation to obstetrics, and I believe that includes the neonatology department before it was given its own code, speciality separate code in 2020-2021, we've got a total here of 40,400,000 odd, with a total of, when you add up all the claimant legal costs and the NHS legal costs, we have a total of 46,500,000 odd, or 464,000, 46,464,000. So that's a huge amount of money there. Again, when there's lower figures of claims closed, less than 5, they use the hash symbol. looking at the years 2014-15 and 2016-17, there are fewer than, they're using that hash symbol for both those years, so this is the indictment period that it covers, and there are fewer than 5 claims closed, not claims made, but claims closed, because from the previous table we know that there were, I'll just go back and check that figure. From the previous table we know that there were 7 and 8 respectively across those 2 financial year periods, 2014 to 15, 2015 to 16, 7 and 8 claims made, the highest number of claims made in any 2-year period between 2006 and 2024. Is that a coincidence or is it not a coincidence? What does it mean? And were some of those claims, in fact, that were made in that indictment period, this is just coming to my mind now, were they the ones that were essentially put on ice and they haven't been settled, of course, because those claims were reframed falsely, wrongly, unjustly, unfairly, and dishonestly as deliberate crimes? Were those claims that would have been in the process of being settled or would have been settled by now, some of those claims from those 2 years, 7 and 8 respectively, were some of those from the neonatology department, and they went on ice because we know there was that. I always thought of it as a local solicitor to Chester, but in fact it was a solicitor that was quite a large solicitor that had a branch in Chester, but it was a very big company. So there we have it. Not sure what else I can deduce from this or what other people will deduce from it or infer from it, but I wanted to share this information with you, and I hope it may be the cause of some discussion and in the comments and between you, and perhaps other people may consider taking up this information and doing something else with it. As I said in a community post that I've sent it on to Anouk Curry, the investigative journalist. I think it's all important background information and context. I don't know whether Mark MacDonald has access to this. I don't know to what degree it would be useful to have this as part of the context. But anyway, I'll leave it with you, and I'll thank you very much for listening, and take care, everyone. And it'll be very interesting tomorrow to see what the press conference, the Mark MacDonald press conference, where Dr. Shu Lee is going to present some of his findings and thoughts, as well as other people, I think. And David Davis is chairing it. I think that'll be a very interesting event, very powerful event, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. All the best. Take care. Bye-bye.